Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, where we dive into the brilliant complexities of our bodies, one cell at a time. I'm Ethan Foster, and if my job title were deeply curious bystander with a penchant for wry commentary, I'd say that fits me pretty well.
And I'm Alara Skye, ever ready to connect the dots between biology and daily life. Or, as my old science teacher would have put it, Alara is a bit too enthusiastic for her own good. But here I am, still enthusiastic.
I'd say your enthusiasm is exactly what we need. So let's jump in with a catchy phrase. Today's episode is all about the intricacies of adolescence, insulin regulation, and what happens when well-intentioned fasting gets tangled with a growing body's needs. Because who doesn't love talking about hormones, right?
It might actually rank at the top of my list, followed closely by comedic roast sessions and analyzing quirky family traditions. Hormones and comedic roasts, both equally capable of causing chaos at a dinner table.
I'm not sure which would cause more chaos, hormones or your comedic roasts. One can lead to teenage rebellion, the other, well, that can also lead to teenage rebellion. Let's talk about this concept of intermittent fasting in young folks, though. In theory, we've all heard the hype around intermittent fasting. The grown-ups are saying it's great for metabolic health, for giving your cells a rest, for letting your digestive system reset. But as with most things, context is key. Turns out that for adolescents, too much fasting can do a bit more harm than good.
Apparently, if you're still aspiring to pass your next algebra test and you occasionally write your English essay at 2 a.m., then maybe 24-hour fasts are not the best addition to that schedule. It's not just about gnawing hunger. It's about how the body handles insulin.
Insulin, that superhero hormone that keeps our blood sugar balanced and our energy levels stable. The problem is, for adolescents, prolonged or long-term intermittent fasting seems to disrupt that insulin production. And that's an issue, because while adults might adapt more easily to that fasting window, younger bodies are in the middle of growth spurts, which is a bit like trying to build a house while shutting off the power tools every couple of hours.
I like that analogy. Imagine a construction team saying, "We're going to build this brand new house, electric saws, nail guns, the whole shebang, but let's keep the power off half the day." The house might get built eventually, but not with the best structural integrity.
Exactly. Now, I read that this disrupted insulin production can mimic some patterns found in type 1 diabetes. Obviously, that's not something you want in your teenage years. Your body thinking, hey, maybe we should downshift our insulin output. That's a precarious place to be, especially during a stage of life where you're already juggling hormones, growth, and your mother nagging you to clean your room.
Adolescents love it when you bring that up. But in all seriousness, if long-term fasting disrupts the insulin, you've got the potential for poor blood sugar regulation, which can lead to increased metabolic risks. It's like the body's check engine light flickering on early, warning you that a major service is needed.
Yes, the dreaded check engine light. And nobody wants to see that while you're still learning how to drive, metaphorically or literally. So if that's the case, what's the best approach for young people? Because the message in the health world can sometimes be confusing.
The wellness space thrives on extremes. One day you hear, consume 84 superfoods before noon to be healthy. The next day it's, go on a 24-hour fast to reset your entire physiology. Adolescents do not need that confusion. They need something stable, something balanced. The simpler approach for them is, let's maybe not skip multiple meals. Let's aim for regular balanced meals, ones that keep insulin stable and that fuel growth and learning.
And if you're a young person listening to this, or you know a young person, and by know a young person, I mean you probably got one rummaging through your fridge at all hours, it's good to encourage them to focus on getting enough protein, healthy fats, and whole food carbohydrates. Essentially, the stuff that fosters metabolic stability and wards off those big insulin dips and spikes.
Which, ironically, might be the opposite of what they think. Some teens might hear about fasting from online influencers. They think, oh, I've got to hack my body, my metabolism, my buddy does it, so I should too. But you can't exactly hack your way through puberty. That's a biological process that demands nourishment. Without consistent energy intake, the body senses a shortage. It's going to adjust insulin production accordingly, and that leads to suboptimal development.
Let's talk about beta cells real quick. These little guys are in the pancreas producing insulin, and apparently in adolescence these beta cells are still maturing. Long-term fasting might reduce that maturity. So we end up with a teenage pancreas that's basically stuck at a middle school dance, uncertain and awkward.
The middle school dance is a savage environment, Ethan. We don't need to trap the poor pancreas there any longer than necessary. We want it to, graduate, find its groove, become a responsible adult pancreas. That requires a normal, balanced intake of nutrients.
So, on the flip side, if adolescents support these beta cells by eating regular meals, focusing on nutrient density, avoiding highly processed junk, they might set themselves up for healthier insulin function well into adulthood.
Yeah, because early patterns can stick around. If you start messing with your metabolic system in your teenage years, you might be setting yourself up for insulin issues later on. But if you do it properly from the start, you end up with better results down the line.
Let's not forget that healthy lifestyle choices protect beta cells in general. Things like limiting the dreaded seed oils, optimizing gut health, and going outside for daily sun exposure. These are more than just random wellness tidbits. They directly impact how your cells function.
Yes, the seed oil drama. I've heard so many stories on that. People will say, but I love my French fries. They must be healthy if I pair them with a kale smoothie. Good luck with that. It's not about never enjoying fries again, but more about being conscious of not drenching every meal in cheap, low-quality oils.
That definitely helps your body avoid unnecessary inflammation. And gut health. How many times have we learned that so many processes begin in the gut? A healthy microbiome can influence everything from mood to immune response. So, making sure teens get some fiber, fermented foods, or at least not living exclusively on sugary cereals can be beneficial.
The teenage gut, often fueled by pizza pockets and neon-colored sports drinks, can definitely use a break. There's also that daily sun exposure factor. Vitamin D is linked to a host of metabolic processes. So encouraging kids to go outside, ironically, is a good idea. Let them do something more meaningful than scrolling through social media in a dimly lit room.
We might sound old-fashioned, but fresh air and sunshine still haven't gone out of style. Now, let's pivot a bit to the real-life implications. If you've got a teenager in your life who's obsessed with this idea of skipping meals because they read it's a new diet hack, maybe steer them away from that route. Let them know that consistent nutrition is actually the more cutting-edge approach at their age.
Yes, ironically, the real hack for adolescent health is normalcy. 3 meals, balanced macros, maybe some healthy snacks. The stable energy intake fosters better beta cell maturity, better insulin function, fewer sugar crashes. It's a recipe for supporting growth physically, mentally, and academically. And if they want to do something that feels cutting edge, they can focus on quality. Maybe learn to cook. That might be more life-changing than skipping meals.
You tell a teen to try cooking a healthy meal, and you might get an eye roll, but at least it's more beneficial than an intermittent fasting spree that could harm their growing body. Let's be honest, the body in adolescence is like a construction site. There's scaffolding, dust, incomplete wiring. It needs consistent building materials. That's not the time to say, let's shut down for maintenance every other day.
Exactly. It needs the power on. And do we blame the teenagers for wanting to try something new? No, we do not. Half of adolescence is about experimentation. We just want them to experiment with, say, a new recipe book, rather than 5 consecutive meal skips.
I also think it's worth pointing out that adolescence is psychologically vulnerable. If they get too entrenched in the idea of restricting food, that could spiral into unhealthy behaviors around eating in general.
Absolutely. That's a whole separate rabbit hole we could talk about. When health strategies become psychologically stressful, you're setting up a dangerous dynamic. Instead, let's encourage them to tune into hunger signals, but also keep a basic schedule so they don't go rogue with their mealtimes.
You know, Dr. Mercola's approach often revolves around paying attention to how our cells work at different life stages, not adopting a one-size-fits-all model. Adults doing intermittent fasting might see benefits, but that doesn't mean a 15-year-old will see the same result. Different stage, different strategy.
Right. I mean, if you're an adult, you can indulge in a 16-to-8 schedule or try an occasional longer fast. You have a more established system, and you're not simultaneously trying to grow 4 inches in a year. Your hormones have mostly settled. But teenagers, their bodies are under constant construction.
Let's revisit the idea that long-term intermittent fasting can lead to patterns mimicking type 1 diabetes. That's huge. When insulin production takes a nosedive, that's not the norm for a healthy teen. We need to highlight that, because it's not just a minor inconvenience. It's a major metabolic red flag.
It's the difference between your body fine-tuning insulin responses versus your body just not bothering with them. If your body starts cutting corners with insulin, that's reminiscent of certain disease processes, and it's the exact opposite of healthy adaptation. That's not a benefit of fasting. It's a sign you're pushing the body in a direction it's not designed to go, at least not during that life stage.
So, for the younger crowd, the focus should be on robust nutrition, a bit of movement every day, good sleep, plus a lifestyle that fosters that healthy insulin function. Intermittent fasting might make sense later in life, but not in the middle of puberty.
You're telling me all those times my mother said, eat your breakfast or you'll be useless by noon. She was basically spouting advanced pancreatic science.
She was basically a closeted endocrinologist. And to be fair, parents have been unwittingly championing balanced meals for decades. Now, we have some extra science to back it up.
So next time someone tries to push a half-baked online fasting challenge at a 14-year-old, you can say, actually, that might freeze your beta cells in an awkward phase and mimic diabetes patterns. That'll stop the conversation, though the teen might look at you like you're speaking Martian.
I'll admit, I didn't know what a beta cell was when I was 14, but I did know that skipping meals made me hangry, and that's basically your body telling you, this is not a good idea.
We often overcomplicate health, but it's good to remember that hunger signals are there for a reason. Especially during growth, the body's demands are higher. If you deprive it, it starts making do with less, which can have long-term metabolic consequences.
It's like forgetting to water a plant. Eventually, it can adapt by slowing its growth, but that's not the goal. You want the plant or the teen to flourish, not just survive with the bare minimum.
And the difference is, a wilted plant can sometimes bounce back quickly once it's watered. A teenager's metabolism might carry those scars for a longer period. We want to avoid that.
We sure do. So, the key takeaway. If you're an adolescent or you're responsible for one, balance is everything. 3 meals, possibly with snacks if needed. Avoid too many junk foods or seed oils that can compromise metabolic health. And for heaven's sake, go outside once in a while. It's not going to kill you.
That's right. A dose of sunlight, a chance for vitamin D synthesis, a bit of movement. These are the freebies that can significantly boost your metabolic and overall health. And if a teen wants to try some ephemeral new trend, maybe let them paint their hair green for a week, but keep their mealtimes consistent.
I'm picturing a teen with bright green hair, munching on a wholesome breakfast. And ironically, that's probably the best case scenario. Creative expression plus steady nutrition. Win-win. Any parting wisdom for the folks at home?
Keep it simple. Don't complicate adolescence more than it already is. Encourage real foods, consistent meals, good sleep, and daily sunlight. That's the basic formula. Let everything else be secondary.
And for the teenage crowd, if you're going to skip something, skip the negative self-talk and the rigid dieting fads. Embrace the notion that your body's building its foundations right now, and that requires stable support.
Absolutely. If you treat your pancreas right, it'll treat you right in return. And you don't want a cranky pancreas, trust me.
And with that, I guess we'll wrap up. You've been listening to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. We hope we've injected a bit of humor and clarity into the sometimes murky world of health advice. Thanks for listening, and remember, feeding a teenager is a public service to everyone else around them.
Indeed. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Until next time, keep those cells happy.
And keep that sense of humor handy, because health is serious business. But we don't have to take ourselves too seriously along the way. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.